Welcome to Hard Talk. I'm Sackur. Draw up a list of the greatest living filmmakers, and my guest today would surely occupy a prominent place. Werner Herzog is responsible for some of the most wildly beautiful images captured on celluloid. If you've seen Fitzcarraldo, you won't have forgotten the steamship being hauled over a mountain. He's seen as the film industry's obsessive genius, the director who once threatened to shoot his lead actor to prevent him quitting. After 5 decades making movies, is Werner Herzog's love of film as intense as ever? Werner Herzog, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you.
Let's start with the word passion. You've been making films for the best part of 5 decades. Does your passion for film burn as bright as ever?
It hasn't stopped. There's some sort of a fire within, and in a way I can say I haven't had a career, because career means planning and what do I do after that step or so. It's always, I keep saying, it's like burglars in your kitchen in the middle of the night. You wake up at 3 in the morning, something stirs, and there are 5 burglars. And the one who comes with the most vehemence at you, with an axe in his hand or a knife or a gun, so you have to deal with that one first. And that's how my film projects are coming at me. And I have, in recent years, I have made more films. I mean, just counting them, which is silly. I've made more films than before, and some of them bigger. You mentioned Fitzcarraldo. I'm just releasing now a big epic film, which was shot in the desert in Morocco, Queen of the Desert with Nicole Kidman. I've done documentaries, but I have done other things that's overlooked quite often. I've written books, and I have a suspicion that my prose may outlive my films, like Conquest of the Useless or Of Walking in Ice. And I run my own film school, and
Oh my goodness, I'm going to stop you there, because there's so much.
I'm acting as a villain, so I stop it there. Yes.
Yeah, but I'll get to the acting as a villain later on too.
Yeah.
Even the list you've just given me of the artistic endeavours you're still undertaking, so many of them. I'm just wondering whether your style has changed. Do you think, there's this word mellowed, and people often attach it to age. Do you think you have mellowed as an artist with age?
It doesn't look likely, because when you look at films I made not too long ago, Bad Lieutenant, it's so outrageously wild and hilarious. People always think, I'm this obsessed Teutonic filmmaker who has not an ounce of humor. In all my films there's humor, including Fitzcarraldo, including Aguirre, where I came close to shoot my leading actor, or Grizzly Man. So there's an intensity in it that hasn't been there before.
You've also started, you just mentioned it, you've started teaching young filmmakers. And I wonder, let's think about it. Imagine I'm one of the young students who's gone through a very severe selection process and is now listening to Werner Herzog's view of the fundamentals of making movies. If there are just a few words that you could give to a student like me as to what matters most for successfully making a good movie, what would you say?
I think self-reliance. Everybody's complaining, the industry is so stupid. I do not get the money together, and so I say, roll up your sleeves, work as a bouncer in a sex club, as a warden in a lunatic asylum, half a year, you earn $10,000, $20,000, and you can make a feature film today. There's no excuse anymore. And then, of course, read. If you don't read, you will never make a great film. And I do have a mandatory reading list, but has nothing to do with cinema. It has to do with poetry, beginning Antiquity in Rome, Virgil, Georgics, about life in the country, about agriculture, or old Nordic poetry, or even the Warren Commission report on the assassination of Kennedy.
So you want broad minds. You think a broad mind matters.
Conceptual,
yeah,
conceptually thinking, and those who are ready to break the rules, who are ready to learn from me how to pick a safety lock, how to forge a document. You see, a film like Fitzcarraldo would never have been possible without massive forgery. At that time, Peru was a military dictatorship. All of a sudden, a military build-up along the river where I had to move my ship. I was stopped, shot at. And I demanded an explanation, and I didn't get an explanation. I was only told, where is your shooting permit? And I said, of course, I made it up. It's in Lima, and it will take me 3 or 4 days until I can bring it to the jungle. So 4 days later, I come with a very elaborate, beautiful document written in antiquated chancellery sort of diction in Spanish, and notary paper, and it says El Presidente de la República, the President of the Republic. It allowed me literally everything.
And a complete fake.
Complete fake, and it was signed by Belaúnde, El Presidente de la República, in stamps, and his notary of the presidency signed it as well, and his interior minister signed it. So the coronel, I said, mi coronel, you let me pass now, and he looked at me and looks at the document and salutes and says, pass on.
So rule breaking is a part of the recipe for successful filmmaking.
Yes, you have to.
You've constantly through your career focused on this word courage, and you've sort of juxtaposed courage against cowardice in the way you go about making a film. But what I want to push you on, and you mentioned Fitzcarraldo, is that you can take courage to an insane extent. You can push your crew, your actors, the people around you to a point where they're putting their lives on the line, and many would say you did that with Fitzcarraldo.
I did it with my life, with no one else's. So that's a myth that has been created. But let's put it into normal terms. Yes, I have done films that nobody else would have done. How do you move a very heavy steamboat over a mountain with the help of 1,100 savage, of course, in movie terms, savage native Indians. There were risks, but it was not insanity, because I knew I could move it over the mountain.
Well, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have read, and maybe this is folklore, but I've read that one of your cinematographers had his hand smashed when he was in the steamship going over the rapids. Another crew member was bitten by a deadly snake, and I think he may have lost part of his leg. Another crew member was
chopped it off with his chainsaw. Because it was one of our lumbermen, and they worked barefoot because we had to cut trees for moving the ship over a cleared strip of the forest. And he was bitten by the most venomous snake in the world. And you have something like very few seconds to make up your mind what to do. Our doctor and our medical camp was too far away for reaching it within minutes. It was something like 20 minutes away. So he picked up the chainsaw that had stopped and starts it up again like an outboard engine of a boat, and just looks at it and chops off his foot, and that made him survive.
But you see, the point is, no movie is surely worth that sort of trauma.
No, it is not. It is not. And when you do a film, you have to be very, very careful that these things are not happening. But things happen when you build a bridge, for example. Yes, you have accidents, but none of them was directly related to the shooting of the film. There were extreme precautions. For example, some of the hawsers snapped. And when that happens, there's some sort of a whiplash effect that can decapitate one or several persons. So whenever we moved the ship, there was far and wide nobody around. I was around, but no one else.
Well, when you talk of extremes and things snapping, another thing that famously snapped on one of your sets was your own temper with your good friend and lead actor in some of your most famous films, Klaus Kinski. I think it was on the movie set of Aguirre in Peru, where he threatened to leave before the end of filming, and you said, if you leave now, I will shoot you before you get round the first bend of the river. And I'm just wondering whether actually that was entirely facetious, or whether there was a part of Werner Herzog that could imagine shooting an actor.
Well, I've never done it, and the funny thing is that both of us simultaneously plotted to murder each other. I mean, beautiful plots like great screenplays of detective and crime stories. We plotted. But in this case, well, I was unarmed. I didn't have a rifle in my hand. However, I had confiscated his Winchester, a real serious Winchester. And a few nights before, he had a hut a little bit higher than the extras. And you have to imagine a thatched roof and bamboo walls, very thin. And the extras, 40 or 45 of them, are laughing in this hut after shooting. And they're playing cards. And Kinski throws a tantrum, these pigs are laughing. And all of a sudden, nobody knew what got into him. He shot through, he fired 3 shots through the hut, through the walls. That he didn't kill anyone was a miracle. He only shot the middle finger away from one of the extras. That's why I had to confiscate the rifle, and I had it. And
did you, honestly now, it's many years later, did you ever consider going to get that rifle and pointing it at him?
That's hard to say in retrospect. I find it very funny. I find it very funny. It's a hilarious incident. There was a grain of seriousness about it, and he realized there was a task there that was beyond him and beyond me. We had to fulfill a duty which was way beyond us. So, and later we laughed and talked and drank champagne over all this. And you see, you have to, I think the important thing is, how do you walk away from such a thing? 10 minutes later.
You did.
We walked away from it and embraced and laughed.
And of course,
we laughed until the end of his days over this.
And of course, that movie, like so many of your best-known films, was set in an extreme environment, very harsh environment. And that seems to me to be a theme of your work, not just in your movies, your fiction films, but also in a lot of your documentary work. You love pushing yourself and featuring subjects who are pushing themselves to the very limits in terms of their relationship with the natural world.
Only if they are willing to do this. You see, I never force anyone. That's a myth that I'm pushing people to the brink of what they can do, or to their physical existence even. Yes, when you are shooting in rapids, we saw the ship going through the rapids. There was nobody on board. It looked spectacular, and then it didn't look that dangerous. So we said, let's be on board the ship with cameras. So who are the ones who, on their free will, come with me? There were 7. And Thomas Mauch, one of the cinematographers, upon one of the impacts, he had this camera on his shoulder and flew through the air and smashed down on the deck with the camera in his hand, which was something like 20 kilos, and it split his hand apart. Yes, this happens. And
but I suppose
he never minded. He never minded. That was part of our of a bigger deal. Yes, we do risk certain things that we do not impose on anyone else.
I suppose I'm also thinking in the context of a more recent documentary film you made, Grizzly Man, which of course took the home movie material filmed by this extraordinary figure, Timothy Treadwell, who lived for years in a remote part of Alaska with the grizzly bears, and tragically ended his life eaten along with his girlfriend by...
Nobody deserves to die like this.
No, but what I'm getting at, and so many of your movies wrestle with this, is your view of the natural world, because clearly you love it. You've spent so much of your life working in it, and yet yours isn't a sort of benign view of nature. Yours is a very raw, dangerous... Sometimes you've even talked about the sort of the murderous capacity that there is within nature.
Well, it's unsentimental. It's not the Walt Disney world view of wild nature, and it's not romantic. That's quite obvious. And I can say it in short, yes, I love nature. I love wild nature, but most of the time against my better judgment.
And it seems to me, unlike a lot of modern movie makers who are somewhat obsessed with computer-generated images, with the special effects and the extraordinary fake, breathtaking visions that can be created by man and a computer, you get your breathtaking visions and your beauty and your stunning visual effects from nature itself.
Yeah, and it's a way how you experience nature and how you approach it. I sometimes say as a metaphor, those are films made on foot. And much of what I have as images within me comes from traveling on foot. And you know, you are all alone and you are exposed in the world. Has a strange attitude. The world somehow reveals itself to those who travel on foot. It's very hard to communicate it because nobody travels on foot nowadays. But I have done it, and I'm not like a movie now, a young lady who walks a Pacific Trail. I'm not a trail hiker.
This isn't wild. You're not talking about wild, which is
I travel basically without luggage.
One walk I know you did many years ago, which has lived in my memory, was a walk around the border of Germany.
Yes.
And I want to talk very briefly about Germany. You came to fame, I guess, in the 60s and the 70s as part of a German new wave, along with other great filmmakers like Fassbinder and Wim Wenders. And you looked unflinchingly at the sort of post-Nazi Germany that was emerging. And now you don't really seem to make films about Germany, your native land, at all. Have you lost interest in Germany?
No, it has always interested me, although I must say I'm more Bavarian than German. It's like Scottish and British. So I'm more like the Scotsman for the Bavarians. No, I've always been fascinated by the country and fascinated by the somehow incomprehensible barbarism. I still have not fully understood it. And I'm trying to come to grips. And
does that mean, as an artist, when you think about Germany, you're still thinking about, Nazism, about Hitler's legacy, rather than about some of the challenges facing Germany today? For example, its place in the modern European Union, or the role of immigration in Germany.
Thanks God, Germany is embedded, because and it's very funny because seeing it from outside, from the west coast of the United States. When the European Union was awarded the Peace Nobel Prize, I remember the German press was grumbling, and all they all want a photo op, and it's self-celebratory, and the euro is in chaos, and Greece is giving everybody a difficult time, on and on and on. It was just grumbling and mumbling and discontent. And you know what I thought? You idiots. You blaring idiots. The European Union is the largest, the biggest practiced peace project that this history of this world has ever seen. Period.
You think people
celebrate
forget that?
it? Celebrate.
And yet you, as you've just alluded to, you've chosen to live your life in California, in the United States. And that to me is very interesting, because obviously California is the home of the biggest movie industry in the world. And yet you appear to have so little in common with Hollywood. I was just trying to think to myself, could Werner Herzog ever make Fitzcarraldo 2? Could he ever sort of make what they call in Hollywood a star vehicle movie built around one of the world's biggest Hollywood stars?
Hollywood cannot do what I did. No, they can't. But let's caution. Yes, I do live in Los Angeles. I don't say Hollywood, because since 20 years I'm happily married in Los Angeles. Well, actually in California. My wife and I lived in San Francisco, and we thought we have to go to the place, to the city with the most substance in the United States. And it was very, very clear, Los Angeles. Very quickly it was clear. It's the most honest place. I mean, it has, of course, the glitz and glamour of Hollywood as a surface, but look under it. And in Southern California, many, many things that decide the world, the trends of the world. And I don't speak of trendy things, I mean serious things like collective dreams of the world in cinema, or video games, computer, internet, free speech movement, accepting gays and lesbians as an integral part of a dignified society.
So you see California as a very vibrant, contemporary place,
yes.
but
all the stupidities there as well.
Well,
pumping
let's get to
iron,
stupid. Yeah, but
five-year-old children going to yoga classes.
But it seems to me
and the hippies and New Age pseudo-philosophy.
You talk about all of that as though you're not part of it, but it seems to me you have a dilemma, because from time to time, hang on, let me finish my thought. From time to time you have made movies which have involved Hollywood money, studio money.
Yes.
I mean, I'm thinking of Rescue Dawn that you made, the story of an extraordinary story of an American-German pilot who was captured in Vietnam. Now, when you made that movie, the New Yorker wrote a fascinating piece about how you time and again were frustrated by the demands of the producers, the vast crew that had been sent out from Hollywood because there were millions of dollars at stake. Can you work with Hollywood, or can you not?
I can deal with it, and we have interesting points of meeting. There's a borderline, although sometimes there might be some friction. But I'm better than Hollywood in some respect. Hollywood is basically, the real big Hollywood would be special effects, star value, although all the stars want to work with me as well. So that's an easy position now vis-a-vis Hollywood. But I'm good at storytelling. I have a suspicion I'm fairly good at storytelling, and that's a basic, fundamental center of filmmaking. And if you don't have that, big films that are mostly explosions and shootouts and things like that do not function. And that's why Hollywood looks in my direction as well. And it's totally fine.
Well, it's interesting you say that. Hollywood looks in my direction, you say, and forgive this question because I don't mean it to sound impertinent, but the one award you've never won, you've won Best Picture at Cannes with Fitzcarraldo, but you have not won an Oscar for your directing. And does that rankle with you when you think about this career you've had?
No, come on, number one career I didn't have, and whether I ever won an Oscar or not, doesn't make a film better or worse. It just doesn't. And it has to come as a natural concomitant. You see, you don't spend sleepless nights over this. And I enjoy seeing that colleagues of mine who are really good get the Academy Award. Wonderful. I don't need it because, you see, I've made enough films. I don't need it really badly.
Well,
like some 24-year-old kid. I've made 70 films now.
And as you said at the very beginning, you haven't stopped. And you said not so long ago, you said, I think cinema can express our collective dreams more than any other medium. Is that still true today in the world you described
I do believe, yes.
Special effects and computer games and
whatever it is, yes, whatever it is, because there's a great bandwidth of cinema, including all the big action movies from Hollywood, or the films like Star Wars, you just name it. And it's good to see that. And it's good for me to see that there was a wonderful type of movies like Fred Astaire. I mean, the most artificial and the most strange, weirdest sort of films, and they're wonderful.
So movie magic for you lives on.
There's awe and magic, and I'm going to hang on in.
Werner Herzog, we hope so. But thank you for being on Hard Talk. Thank you very much. Werner, thank you very much.